What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you stopping by, spending a few minutes of your time with me here today. It's a beautiful day down here in Texas. I've got my good cup of coffee, but too much of a good thing could be a bad thing, right? This coffee is amazing, for example. But if I drink 8 cups of this coffee today, I'm going to be feeling it. I won't be feeling that well. I might be experiencing, higher levels of anxiety than I'm used to. Too much of a good thing could be a bad thing, no matter what it is. And we've got a lot of things to be grateful for. We've got a lot of good things in this modern world, right? We can push a single button on the cell phone to connect to anyone, anywhere on the planet. And that's a good thing, but too much of a good thing could be a bad thing, right? We know this. We know this. You could hop on a plane and fly anywhere in the world in a matter of hours. And that's a good thing, to be able to travel, to see and experience other cultures, other people, other environments, right? But too much of a good thing could be a bad thing, because what happens when you travel so much that you're not satisfied with being at home anymore? What if you travel so much that you think that your homeland sucks now because you're so used to being spoiled by the world? You've gone and seen all of these magical lands and magical people, right? And people get upset about things. Like, we go to the grocery store, we buy bananas. And some of us get upset. Why do I have to buy bananas? Like, who really owns bananas? Who has the right to sell bananas? They just grow for free from the earth. But maybe bananas don't grow where you live. And where you live, bananas are pretty valuable. But where bananas grow natively, they grow in abundance. And they're dirt cheap to the people there, right? But to you, being introduced to this new thing, imagine that if you and I lived in some place where we had never seen sugar. Sugar didn't happen naturally where we were, and we had learned to live without sugar. But then we begin to explore, and we find some new distant land and this magical substance called sugar. But sugar, to the natives, is of the same value as dirt. I mean, this stuff is everywhere, right? But they see that you don't have any, you really like it, you bring it back. Now your people have developed a dependency on it. It turns that dirt cheap sugar into white gold. You see, and we've formed our entire economic system based on this global international trading of foreign and exotic goods. And now we take full advantage of this. We take this for granted, for real, and we feel like these people owe us that. You couldn't imagine a life without certain things, without certain conveniences, modern conveniences, right? Too much of a good thing could be a bad thing in any situation, right? All of this travel, even the technology that allows you to travel without ever leaving your home, too much of this good thing could be a bad thing, because it almost conditions you to be unsatisfied with where you're at. I feel like it would be much more beneficial if people were conditioned to learn how to be self-sufficient with their current situation, wherever they're at. Wherever you were born, wherever you live at, this is where you should learn to be comfortable. This is where you should learn to be satisfied. You should never be fed dreams of some magical foreign land and then always wish you were there instead of where you're at. You see what I mean? And this happens to people. Too much of a good thing could be a bad thing. Even marijuana. A lot of people look at weed like it's a good thing. But too much of this good thing could be a bad thing. A lot of people start smoking weed and they see it as like a gateway to creativity, abstract thinking. Now you're able to think outside of the box. But you keep smoking that shit and it's going to kill off all of that creativity, right? That same marijuana will kill that creativity. Too much of a good thing could be a bad thing. Too much thinking is a bad thing. It doesn't matter about what the contents of the thoughts are. all of your thoughts could be concerned with spiritual matters, but this will drive you insane, right? Thinking too much can get you in trouble. Thoughts are just like that. You don't even have to think in words. Too many words can be a bad thing. But you don't even have to think in words. You can think in feelings. Your internal state of being, your emotions, they will let you know if you should be wherever you're at or not. They might tell you straight up, dude, you got to get out of here. But then those words will creep in and they'll convince your dumb ass to stay around until you get in some trouble. And words are a magical thing. Words are beautiful. Poetry is beautiful. But too much of a good thing could be a bad thing. It doesn't matter what it is. My neighbor told me green beans are healthy for you, but if you eat too much, they're not going to be good for you. You've heard this story of that water drinking competition on the radio in which one of the contestants died by drinking too much water. So we know that too much of a good thing could be a bad thing. But what about a bad thing? Could too much of a bad thing be a good thing? That's the motto for a lot of people. You've heard the slogan, order out of chaos. What does that mean? It means that too much of a bad thing could be a good thing. It means that all opposites can easily be transmuted into one another. You could be in a beautiful, loving relationship, but in an instant, that relationship can turn into a hateful relationship in an instant, right? Or you could have a very strong sense of hate towards a certain person, and then that person acts towards you out of a place of compassion, and that hate will suddenly be transformed into something else, something greater, right? Imagine some sort of hostile alien invasion. I mean, you've seen plenty of movies and TV shows about it, right? Imagine a hostile alien invasion. This could be that one bad thing, too much of a bad thing, that could end up being good. Even if it was all just a show, even if it was all a mirage, just special effects in the sky, but the majority of people believed in an alien invasion, a hostile alien invasion. And they were seeing people getting vaporized and everything. They just don't know it's all a holographic show taking place in front of them. That's okay. Maybe this would be the event. This is the train of thought. This would be the event to finally bring people together at a global scale, to unite people to fight off this cosmic threat together, and then defeat that threat and sit back and enjoy peace on earth for a while until they forget about what peace is, what peace means, and how it looks like, right? Or this generation, you could think about it like climate change. We see all sorts of air pollution, ozone depletion, etc. We pull out how many tons of plastic out of the ocean every year? So there is this threat at a global scale, and this is the thing. It could be, in theory, the too much of a bad thing that results in some greater good. You see what I'm saying? That's the train of thought. But does it even matter in the long run? Does it ever matter? Or are we just destined to repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again? They say history repeats itself. Well, why? A lot of people think that it's because we make errors in thinking. When viewing the past, we have the wrong perspective. But what if it's impossible to have the right perspective? I love watching movies. I just love movies, okay? Movies, films, to me, can be a very powerful, beautiful experience, right? And movies can make sense out of a lot of your more abstract thoughts about life. These people that make movies are geniuses, you know what I mean? Or madmen, depending on how you would like to look at it. But I recently watched this movie called Alien Code. And Alien Code is actually a movie that you can watch for free with ads right here on YouTube. And it's pretty dope. I just discovered that YouTube had movies that you could watch for free with ads like on cable or something, but you can still skip the ads or whatever. So I just thought that was pretty cool. But I watched this movie called Alien Code. And in general, the story is about this young man. He's a coder. He is very good with coding computers, deciphering codes and programs and things like this. And he is essentially recruited by some sort of shadow government agency to decode some message that was sent from the future to the present in a satellite. But as a result of this young man being in close proximity to this satellite and the code itself, he was exposed to certain radiation that gave him cancer, that gave him a tumor in his brain. But this tumor, the way that it affected his brain, allowed him to see interdimensional beings, aliens. He started to be followed by the men in black, these featureless, pale, hairless, black suit wearing entities, questioning people about their experiences regarding UFOs and other paranormal activity, right? So he begins to be able to see this, and at one point he is sucked into this alternate dimension where he is put face to face with one of these black featureless beings, you know, the shadow people that you hear people talk about sometimes on YouTube, right? And he has this very curious conversation with this entity. And the entity basically explains to him that from his point of view, from the entity's point of view, when his kind are born, they know everything. They experience an existence in which time is non-linear, that all time exists in a single moment. So these beings understand much more than we could ever hope for. Plus, they're basically immortal, right? They've experienced all time, so they know everything. You see, and they have the ability to time travel, aka space travel, and all of this. But they don't understand the linear version of time very well. They say that linear time basically serves no function, no beneficial function. And the entity brings up this point. He says that human beings seem to be destined to live in eternal suffering and pain, right? And this is because human beings are so temporary. Our existence is so fleeting. Every generation has to start over from scratch. Sure, we have written history, recorded history, but it doesn't do us any good if we don't know what's going on right now. And none of us know what's going on right now. Every single generation is born into complete darkness. Every single generation has no idea what's going on. They have to figure it out for themselves. And they start off with the leftovers from the previous generation. And this happens to every single generation. So sometimes I'm confused when a young person blames everything on an older generation. And I say, you can't blame them. This exact same thing happened to them. The context of it the details might be a little different, but structurally every single generation is abandoned. Every single generation is blind when they come into this world. And because of this constant process of having to start over every generation, we're not able as a species to really retain true knowledge and true understanding of life and how life works and how to live a beneficial life. So it is almost as if we are destined to live a life of eternal suffering. Humans as a whole, that our entire existence will be nothing but pain and suffering because of this. But perhaps too much of a bad thing could be a good thing. Right? Anyway, until next time, I hope you continue to free your mind.